Welcome back to our second Mac Basics video. In the first video, you learned several things about the computer. Today, we're going to learn some more. First of all, I'd like to start with how to make a new folder for your desktop. Remember, we've clicked on our desktop and we see Apple Finder, File, Edit, View, Go, Window, Help. If you return to File and hit New Folder, immediately you will see a new folder on your desktop. For your Graphic Design 1 and 2 classes, you must have a folder on your desktop with your first and last name on it. You must use a capital letter for your first name and a capital letter for your last name. So as soon as I made that new folder, it immediately highlighted it as untitled, and I could begin typing. If it had not highlighted it, if we'd clicked off for some reason and then we don't have it highlighted, we just click on the part where it says untitled, hit the enter or return key, and again, you can start typing. Okay? Once you hit enter, it'll make those changes solidified to the folder, and you can change the name at any time. Obviously, this is not a folder that I need for me, and so I'm going to delete these. But you must have on your desktop a folder with your first and last name on it. Remember, we can change our view options. I'm going to go back into change view options. I'm going to get rid of the show info. I'm going to make my icons larger and my spacing just a little over. Okay, so we know how to make a new folder. You should have a folder with your first and last name on it. Let's keep the folder that says Melanie Brown. Okay, now I can arrange these folders. We talked about that in the last video. I can arrange them by their name or their file size or their type. Of course, they're all folders, so they would be very similar to each other. But if I wanted to move documents in and out of folders, this is how you're going to do that. Let's say I wanted to open my school folder and I wanted to take, let's take this JPEG and slide it out here onto the desktop. So all you do is click it and drag it and move it around where you want it to be. I've put it on the desktop. It's originally in the school folder. I can move it to the Melanie Brown folder if I choose. Okay? I can now close the school folder. I could go back to the Melanie Brown folder, and we can see there's that new document, that JPEG that I put in there. Again, I can move it back out to my desktop, and I can just kind of move it around at will. When you're moving documents on a Mac, that's all you have to do is click on that document and drag and drop it where you want it to be. Okay, that's why I use my desktop so much, is because I can visually see what I have and where it's at. Now, let's talk about how to screenshot on your Mac. If you need a screenshot of the entire image of your computer, you're going to hold down the Command, the Shift, and the number 3 button. When I do that, the computer makes a camera taking sound, a picture taking sound from a camera, and you can see there's my screenshot of my entire desktop has shown up on the desktop. Now let's say I want to use this really beautiful sky background on my desktop background for a later on project. And I just want to select that area of the image. So I'm going to Command Shift 4, and see I get little crosshairs and little sight, what you would see like in a gun, a little sight. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to click and drag over the area that I wish to photograph. Now I have a screenshot with just the area that I highlighted. And so now you see that orange sky, and I could use that later on in a design. Now I'm going to delete this screenshot, the big screenshot. I don't need it. I'm going to save that sky one for later on, and I'm going to replace this back into the school folder. But these are examples of how you screenshot or select screenshot all the time for class. A lot of students use these tools for various things when they're dealing with their projects. Okay, I want to talk to you about other keys on your keyboard that can make things simple for you. If your screen is too bright, you can dull it by hitting F1. You can see it's reducing. F2 makes it brighter. F5 is going to dull the keyboard brightness, or F6 is going to bring it back. Now I'm in a really well lit room right now, so it doesn't matter. But when you're in a dark room, it will decrease or increase your your keyboard brightness. F6 decreases, F5 decreases and F6 increases. Also on your keyboard are volume buttons. I can have maximum volume with F12. I can lessen the volume with F11, and I can mute the volume completely with F10. Now, if we were doing videos, F7 and 8 and 9 would come into play for rewind, play pause, and fast forward. But that's not a very common thing that we would need to use in class. If you're watching my videos for your assignments, you might find those useful from time to time, play or pause. Now, over on F3, F3 is your mission control. That's going to show you how many different desktops that you're running right now. I'm only running one desktop, but if I slide over here, I could add a desktop. I could have one project and some settings going on here while I'm doing some different projects and settings on this other one. And really, you can have as many as you want. Now, if at any time you want to get rid of one, you just X out of that desktop. So I'm going to go back to my original desktop. Again, I got to that by F3 on your keyboard. F3 to start it and the F3 to take it away. That's called mission control. F4 is your launch pad. We're going to hit F4, and a launch pad is everything that's installed on my computer. So it's all the software. And I can scroll from page to page by using a 2-finger swipe left to right across the trackpad. Notice down here, this means there are 4 screens of apps for me to look at. So I can swipe from the right to the left to get to the next page with 2 finger swipes. Okay, from the right to the left, from the right to the left, from the right to the left, and again, now I got to go back the other way, so left to right, left to right, left to right. Notice that it shows you which page you're on as you scroll through. So now that shows me I'm on page 2. And again, these are all of the apps that are installed onto this particular machine. So it's going to be different from machine to machine, and from whomever you're looking at their computer, it's going to look a little different. This is an easy way to grab apps. If there's something that you want, you just go up to it and you double click on that, and then that will open. So let's say I wanted to open GarageBand, and from the launch pad, I pull it up, I double click it, and you can see that it's not originally on my dock, but because I've opened it, it's going to stick it over here, and it's going to bounce and bounce until it finishes opening that particular application. So mission control and launchpad, those are both pretty useful and helpful pieces of parts of the operating system, actually. For now, I also need to show you how you will find your computer's IP address. On a pretty regular basis, we will need to connect to your computer using its IP address, and I'm going to show you how to find your IP address. You can go to Apple System Preferences, or you can go to System Preferences down here, and you're going to slide up to Network. And that's alphabetical. So there's network, and that will open here momentarily. If I went in the other way, you see icons instead of a list. Once I'm in the network setting of system preferences, this is your IP address. So for this particular machine at this particular moment, the IP address is 10.8.240.28. So here we see I have my IP address. If I ever need that information, that's how you access it. System Preferences, Network, double click, and there it is, 10.8.240.28. Okay, so we're going to close out of that for now. Again, that was Apple System Preferences or System Preferences down on your dock. I want you to take notice of the way my dock looks right now. Finder, System Preferences, Mission Control, Launchpad, Calculator, Dictionary, Calendar, Photo Booth, Photoshop, Bridge, Illustrator, Word, Pages, PowerPoint, Keynote, Excel, Numbers, Safari, and QuickTime. I would like for you to make sure that your dock is set exactly as this dock is set so that they will be the same. And this is how you should model your dock for this semester. This will have all the things that we need to use throughout the semester. If you don't have QuickTime, we can download that at a later time. And also make sure on a regular basis you are doing a secure empty of your trash. So I'm going to secure empty my trash. And that takes sometimes that takes longer than other times because the more you have in there and it's securely emptying it, which always takes longer than a regular empty, and that's okay. But for now, I want you to make sure, there it is, it emptied. I want you to make sure that you understand everything we covered in this video, and I want you to make sure that your dock is mirrored after this dock. And remember, if you need applications, you can go to Launchpad or you can go to Go, Applications, and pull down any of these applications that you need and put them on your dock so that yours is the same as mine. Okay? And I hope you learned some more in our Mac Basics 2 video. And next we will have some of your tutorials with details on how to complete them. Thank you very much.